And you're just in time for Richard Mwenja Exclusive, your go-to point on matters political and governance analysis here in Kenya and across the region. My good name is Richard Mwenja. Welcome to the conversation. Today we spearhead a deep dive on subjects that are shaping Kenya's political and governance landscape, more particularly that touching on the future of the Gen Z movement and the political future of none other than Azimio Chief Raila Odinga. Today, I have your favorite public scholar, a gentleman who's seen it all. He's been elected into office, he's held several other positions in this country, been agriculture minister, been an ambassador in this country, and today he sits across this table as an elder in the society, ready to dispense nuggets of wisdom on how better we can forge ahead as a country. But today he's a little bit under the weather, but I know he'll do right on the show. I'm talking about none other than Cherangani's biggest export, Ruto Arab Kirwa.
Yes, it's my pleasure, Richard. Yes.
You still don't believe that you are the biggest export, perhaps from even the wider Nzoia County?
Well, I don't know, because I consider myself one of them. And therefore, when I'm here, I'm here and I thank God that I come from that county. Very beautiful county for those who have not been there. Very peaceful and also very cosmopolitan. In fact, I call it Kenyan Dogo.
Kenyan Dogo.
Yeah, because all Kenyans live there, regardless of where they come from. And we like that diversity. That's why I think in 2013, one of my maxims was unity in diversity. Because unity in the sense that we are focused on the Nzoia that each one of us aspires. And we are diverse in terms of origin, community origin. So for me, I find that county a good place to live in and to bring up your children.
Your Senator, Alan Chesang, voted for the Conflict of Interest Amendment Bill of 2023, which will allow state officers to do business with the government. And these are sparked outrage in Nzoia County. Are you proud of that endorsement from Alan Chesang on the Conflict of Interest Bill of 2023?
Yeah, Senator Chesang is somebody that I feel I'm his mentor. But of course, when people get into that space called an office, they acquire a habit of their own. You remember what Barack Obama said, that the office does not change you. It actually brings out who you are. So if you are a character that does not respect certain values, then that will come out when you are given an office. Otherwise, outside there, everybody is good. But when you are given an office, the worst of you will come out, or the best of you will come out, depending on the situation.
Very well.
So I do not really endorse that position. I say it is repugnant. It is really against the spirit of separation of powers. In fact, I can go ahead and say, even money for CDF, in my opinion, or even Ward Fund, should be ring-fenced to go to a constituency, let's say Cherangani, but the member of parliament should not be involved at all. Of course, he can be a participant in public in terms of suggesting what is a priority in that particular constituency. But for a member of parliament to be dishing out tenders for who is going to do a road from Motoshe to Kablamai, you know, that, in my opinion, is complete conflict of interest. And it is something that we need to rethink on who is going to midwife the financing at the constituency level. It's a good aspect of devolution, and it was done during my tenure as a member of parliament for Cherangani. And for the period I was there, one, I did not take allowances because I believed as a member of that constituency, I deserved more in terms of separating myself from what is going on at the constituency. Number two, I never decided this project should be done. Give Nyakinywa 200,000, give Botua 400,000, give Kablamai 800,000. That was entirely done by the committee under the chairmanship of the late Samuel Motari.
Oh,
yeah.
Very well.
Yeah.
So from your end, you by and large sort of believe, should the Conflict of Interest Bill 2023 be given a green light by the National Assembly, because it's now waiting to be thrown on the floor of the National Assembly, it will somewhat cripple the fight against corruption in this country?
Completely, because you see, the roles of members of parliament, both in the Senate and in the National Assembly, are three. One is to make legislation, two, to represent the people, and three is to oversight the resources that are going to be implemented by the executive. So when you make them part of participants in terms of tendering process and doing all these other businesses, they get compromised. You know, it doesn't need a lot of logic. It doesn't need a lot of work in terms of public policy. And it doesn't need any scholarship. It is something that is obvious. If you are earning 1 million as a member of parliament, that should be okay for you.
Sure enough.
And therefore, don't get embroiled on these other things. Nobody is telling them not to be farmers. Nobody is telling them not to be businessmen. But why don't you do business away from government? Because how will you oversight the government that you are already part and parcel of in terms of contracts? When that issue, because you see an audit once it originated from the Office of Controller and Auditor General, it will go to Parliament. Then members of Parliament will discuss and make recommendations for the executive to implement recommendations, whether it is somebody being jailed, whether it's somebody being investigated further. So will they be passing recommendations for themselves to be further investigated? This is something that I feel we need to flag out and tell our young men and women who are now basically the official opposition in this regime. Yeah.
Otherwise, you're rocking the ship from the inside.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
Sure enough. And now to the big talk of the day, talking about what you've termed as the official opposition unit in Kenya, the Gen Z movement. Yeah. How about we begin with the remarks by Dadaab lawmaker Farah Maalim? From his optic, he said, were he President Ruto during the mass protest that we saw a fortnight ago, he will have killed at least 5,000 of the Gen Zs just so to tame.
Per day, he said per day.
Per day, just so to tame the scale of impact or magnitude of the demonstrations, saying the presidency has to be protected at all costs. Otherwise, that would be a coup in the making. For someone who served in parliament, possibly alongside you, do you think that was so underwhelming from Farah Maalim? Well,
I know Farah Maalim. First of all, I don't credit him with a lot of honesty.
Really?
Farah Maalim is somebody who will make a statement conveniently. I've heard him talk about the role he played in the formation of NAC, and at times some of those are not really factual. I was in the summit, so I know whoever played a role. I was in the coordinating committee that was coordinating all the parties forming NAC. Initially NAK, and subsequently NARC. Okay. So I don't credit him with a lot of honesty. I find Farah Maalim is a merchant. And you know merchants, what they do is to find merchandise to sell. He himself is deputy party leader of Wiper. And you expect him to be sympathetic to the opposition or those forces coalescing against the regime of the day. But he has betrayed the role of the opposition. He's gone to bed with the current regime. Number two, I suspect Farah Maalim to be anarchist. Anarchist in the sense that there are people who don't believe in the rule of law. They conveniently talk about the rule of law when it does not affect them. But if the rule of law is the other side, where they are supposed to comply with the legal requirements, they run away from it. And that is somebody who does not like order, does not like processes, and therefore is anarchist. And number three, Farah Maalim seems to be bitter with something that I do not know. More so because this regime is seen to be against Uhuru. Uhuru is against this regime. He seems to be bitter with Uhuru Kenyatta. And therefore, when you see anything that goes contrary to this regime, he thinks Uhuru Kenyatta is part and parcel of those supporting the opposition. And therefore, he seems to be bitter. I'm saying this because I've heard him one-to-one talk as if this regime is better just because it is not led by Uhuru Kenyatta or a Kikuyu for that matter.
You are calling out on his bad manners, and I'm curious to understand, how then has he survived all these years being in different parliaments without his electorate recalling him or at least calling him to order?
Well, he has lost elections about 3 times. I don't know, I can't remember, either 2 or 3 times.
It hasn't been consistent wins.
Yeah, it's not been consecutive. Therefore, possibly is as erratic as that. When it is convenient, he knows how to jump onto a bandwagon. Yeah, but he seems to credit himself with a lot of accolades that may not be entirely realistic. Yeah, you know, all of us, we have achieved to a certain limited extent whatever we have achieved.
Sure.
But you cannot exalt yourself to a level beyond reality. So that unrealistic character of him, I was not surprised when he said those things. And I saw subsequently was trying to deny the story in one of the stations, I think KTN.
It was edited, more of editing works.
Yes, but when you listen to him to the end, he's actually repeating whatever he had said. So, and if he was here, he would have said, wait. He's somebody who cannot listen to a story up to the end. He believes, he likes listening to his own voice.
He doesn't have the requisite capacity to listen?
He totally lacks it. And he can talk forever. He does not realize that other people also have an opinion that may be at variance with his. And one thing that I say, Richard,
Sure.
My late mother, because I'm a last born, we interacted for so long. As I've told you before, I went to school at the age of 14. That's when I went to Standard 2, Kabla my primary school. My late mother used to tell me, and she did not go to school, but she was wiser than I am. She used to tell me, the day you will know that other people are as intelligent as you are, if not more, that is when I will know that you are now intelligent. And that, to me, is the epitome of wisdom. Because today, when we are doing research, whether it's master's or PhD, you'll have to highlight, identify areas of further research.
Sure.
As a way of documenting your research, to demonstrate that, yes, you have done this research, you've made these conclusions, which you believe in, but there is still room for further research in the same topic, so that you do not behave as if you have exhausted knowledge. So, you know, that is from somebody who did not go to school, but is so ahead that I'm now seeing at my level, at my age, that you must accept other people are as intelligent as you are, if not more. To me, that is what every leader should do. And that's why in leadership, I say the first virtue of a leader is the capacity to listen and interpret what he has heard from his audience.
Talking of which, the President, William Ruto, has been accused of that. Many consider him to be an advisor to his advisors. That he's so intelligent, hyper-intelligent, that he believes he knows everything, and he has seen it all before anyone else. Do you think that is the same thing that could be holding back our President from really taking this country to be the Singapore of Africa?
Yeah, basically that. I think that that's the primary crime that he commits. The other one is that he has no capacity to rein in bad manners. What do I mean? He has totally failed to demonstrate to us and the world that he's interested in reducing pilferage, in reducing wastage, and stopping outright theft in his government. And that is going to be his undoing. And of course, as I said, the prime crime is lack of capacity to listen, and also to integrate information that he gets for the betterment of this country. I will give you one case.
Sure.
When I was member of Parliament, somebody would come in, and because you are possibly waiting to see about 80 people, 100 people outside your house, you tend to want to rush him or her by saying, okay, I know, is it school fees of the child? Something that I would want to advise leaders who are now in position of leadership is spend time listening to the story of the person.
Sure.
In that story lies the answer that he needs from you. And if you ask the right questions as he processes his thoughts, because by the time I come to you, Richard, I've thought about my problem. And I've realized only Richard who can assist me. And so when I come to you, listen to me. And where I'm not clear, ask me another question. I will process the answer until I get it. And when I get it, we agree and say, Richard has really advised me.
You shouldn't be in a rush to dismiss me.
Yeah, don't dismiss anybody. Listen to everybody.
They all have a story to tell.
Kila mtu ana story yake.
Very well.
Even those you think are so dull and lack some kind of wit, they have their own wisdom.
They're children of the universe.
Yes.
And they have a right to belong, right?
They have a right to belong, and they have a right to be listened to. In fact, listening to me, you solve my problem by 50%. And when you advise me, then you are moving to 80. Then I accepted that it's Richard who has solved my problem. But I'm the one who solved my problem by talking to you.
But it seems the president is tapping into your nuggets of wisdom. Reason as to why I'm saying so, over the last 2-3 weeks thereabout, we've seen him advance a room for dialogue with the Gen Zs, engaging them on Twitter platform, I should say on the X platform. But there's a raid attached to that. He came off defensive, combative, and taking a bullet for every member allied to Kenya Kwanza government who's been accused of either pilferage of government resources or who is really displaying bad manners and political arrogance. Would you say that much as he advanced room to listen or to dialogue, it was more of an hypocritical show from him?
I think he's trying to resolve a problem. He realized that there is a crisis. And this crisis, if it is not stemmed at this particular stage, will evict him out of State House. And therefore, he does not want to be evicted out of State House. So whatever he's advancing is just doing it for convenience of his office. Otherwise, the truth is, he's still in the same old rigid position. Because how can he advance finance bill that he himself has rejected, which means he never believed in rejecting that finance bill. And he behaves as if the finance bill took away all the money that was going to be budgeted for. And yet, he has gone ahead to sign appropriations bill, which is supposed to be the wall that you lay on the foundation, which is the finance bill. So we've not been explained legally what does it mean to sign appropriation bill that whose foundation is the finance bill. Because finance bill is the general policy direction the government makes in terms of money in and how money is going to be expended. The appropriations bill or act, once it is signed, is the legal way of taxing Kenyans for the next 1 year.
Sure.
So on what basis did he sign the appropriations bill, and yet the finance bill, he says, has been rejected? These are some of the issues that the president should allow himself to be guided by public opinion. But he does not believe in that. He believes he knows everything. And of course, you remember at the beginning of time, immediately after elections, he used to say, we won fair and square, as if winning an election is the end of the story. I've won 4 elections as a member of parliament for Cherangani. But any time I was their member of parliament, I knew they have the ultimate authority. And yet I was in the old constitution where there was a bit of leverage that the system can use against the people. But still, I felt that those people, and even I still feel, they gave me temporary custody of the apparatus of the constituency. And it's a privilege. It's not right.
Sure.
To be elected a member of parliament or a president is a privilege that that people bestow upon you, and they expect you to behave well. It's like getting to a bus in Kitale, coming to Nairobi. And when you are inside, you start vomiting, you start abusing people, and you say, after all, I paid for my ticket. You know, you'll be evicted. Because you see, you don't have to exaggerate, you don't have to show excess bad manners just because you are paid, you have a ticket.
Very lastly, a while ago you mentioned about pilferage of public resources.
Yeah.
And sort of in a bid to address the demands of the Gen Z, especially on corruption and theft of public resources,
Yes.
the president outlined a raft of austerity measures his government is going to partake in this financial year henceforth. Let me understand this. Are we likely going to see a situation whereby the president runs the risk of having all those austerity measures he vocally talked about remaining a political statement going by his history when it comes to the fight against corruption?
Yes, I get worried because you see, unless he's engaged directly about it, it is not uppermost in his mind. It is something that just comes as a by the way. It is like for window dressing. Because you see, even the 1 trillion that they, or 600 billion, or was it 360 billion that they say they will lose because of the throwing away the finance bill, that can be mitigated by ensuring that there is minimum corruption, there is minimum pilferage, and there is minimum wastage. Because the worst is wastage. And you know, wastage takes so many forms, including pending bills, that many counties, people do projects. After doing the projects, they spend about 2-3 years pursuing their money, and yet they are taken a loan to do that particular project. So by the time they get, let's call it 5 million, because I think let's talk about small figures within our reach. If I've borrowed 5 million from the bank to do a project that will give me about, if it is genuine project, should give you a profit of 1 million to 2 million. Then I chase that 5 million from the county, or 7 million from the county for the next 5 years. At the end of the day, it will have eaten up all the profit. And many business people have been sold. Their properties have been sold because of lack of payment, either from the central government or from the county government. I remember there's a friend of mine who is owed by government about 400 million.
A whopping 400 million? 400
million for the last 15 years. So you know, that person, you're almost bankrupting him or her. I know of a friend.
Factoring in time value of money, it could even depreciate.
Yeah, that money now is no longer important. Because you see, somebody takes a loan, does the project, he sells his house or something to augment for the deficit. Then at the end of the day, somebody is in the street. You remember there is a guy who stripped naked as he was in one of the offices of the PS. You know that person has died.
Distress.
Yeah, distress. You know, at my age, you don't need to be distressed. You know, at times I say, what is the worst? The sun will rise tomorrow. So you cannot, where's Kunitisha? I mean, you know, if you stress yourself at my age, you will die sooner than later. Because this is a moment you must reflect. Appreciate your grandchildren, appreciate your children, appreciate your country. Listen to good music, at times traditional. Yeah, and you live and you sleep. You wake up, the sun rises. Yeah.
And you see another day.
You see another day, and you thank God for it.
Well, there you have it. That point by former Minister Kipruto Arap Kirwa takes us to the wrap of today's conversation, discussing what the future portends for the Gen Z movement, and also some not really good sentiments that have been made by the political class directed towards the Gen Z, and what came out of it, and how that is probably gonna shape Kenya's political discourse in the near future. That has been our conversation. We continue rolling out conversations that you really want us to address. So keep glued to this channel, and how about we advance this conversation beyond here? Get me at Mwenje Richard on X and on TikTok as well. You can also find Mheshimiwa Kirwa at Kirwa Official across social media platforms. I understand your Twitter is very dormant and TikTok. People are curious. When are you going to be so active?
I will activate it soon.
Soon enough?
Yeah.
There's already a traffic snarl up on your Twitter handle.
Is it?
Yeah, sure. On your X platform.
By next show, I will have activated. Yeah.
Also remember, in the pipeline is the new segment, Heroes Corner with Kipruto Arap Kirwa. I'm going to tell you more about that on our next edition. So stay glued. Until then, enjoy your viewing.